We've got everything you need to know from the Rams Saints joint practice session, the latest on Matthew Stafford, what's the next step for the Rams superstar quarterback, and new jerseys for the Los Angeles Rams. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramily, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, do us a huge favor. Join the party, getting close to 19K, so go give us a sub. Everyday viewers, you want to support the show, hit the like button, drop a comment down below. Podcast listeners, write us a review or read it on the show. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. I've covered LA sports for over a decade, 24/7 sports, Bleacher Report, SI, Dodgers Nation. And as always, I'm joined by the Rams pre-half and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio station, ESPN 710 LA. He's entering his 11th season covering your Los Angeles Rams. The People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on X at Travis Rogers. And on today's episode, we've got players that you need to be looking out for in the Rams' second preseason game against the Chargers. We got takeaways from their joint practice session with the Saints. How did Jimmy Garoppolo look? We got an update on Matthew Stafford. But first, today's episode of Locked On Rams brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. All right, Travis, so we're going to get into the updates, but being the uniform aficionado that you are, did you see the Rams players reacting to their rivalry edition uniforms? Steve Avila said, "This is amazing." Even Matthew Stafford was there, said these are sweet when he walked by. Yeah. I'm very, very excited to see what this. It looks like it's actually navy, but any thoughts on these uniforms, Travis?
So I saw what you saw, and a couple of things. Number one, the reaction of the players seemed very legit, which is exciting for me because if they like them, I think they're probably going to be pretty good. Matthew Stafford's reaction felt like a drive-by. Like that was just one of those, oh yeah, cool. And he just kept moving. So his reaction was the one that I don't even know if he took a good hard look at it, but everyone else was pretty fired up. Like you said, I love a good uniform. I like an alternate uniform. I think the Rams, I know we've talked about this, that when they went from they're the ones that you and I grew up with and the ones that go back to the LA Rams of the 1980s and early 1990s, we loved those. So when they changed it, we were a little skeptical. They've really grown on me over the last several seasons. So I'm here for it. I haven't seen them yet. I don't hate the idea of a navy as long as that gold doesn't come back in. I want yellow. I don't want gold. So yeah, I'm fired up. I can't wait to see him in a couple of days, right?
Yeah, it's a couple of days. It's a part of the NFL's rivalry series, so they're going to unveil them. It's the August 28th, so they're going to wear them once this season for the next 3 years against their NFC West rivalry. So it's not just a one-off thing. You're going to see it for multiple years. I liked what Kobe Turner said. He said they go hard. He said that's crazy. So I mean, so if a player could say that's crazy about them, that means there's got to be something pretty bold, right? It can't be just be like, okay, it's all Navy, same numbers. I'm curious to see if there are gradients in there.
Don't love the gradient. Like
neither do I.
Yeah, I think that just a solid number from the top down to the bottom is the way to do it. But like I said, when they first broke out those helmets a few years ago, I'm like, what are we doing here? And now I think they're awesome. They've really grown on me a lot. So I'm open-minded going into this, and I'm sure I'll end up in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, me too. I mean,
Better than the Dodger City Connects, that's for sure, because it can't be any worse than that.
No, those Dodger City Connects are brutal. They literally look like funfetti. I mean, they literally look like they're sprinkles. I would say they should have like a head Dodgers hat with a candle on them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I mean, those are absolutely brutal. I can honestly say, without seeing these, that these are going to be better than those. Like, there's no doubt about it. Like,
can't be worse.
It can't be worse for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Matthew Stafford was in that. He did react to that, and the update on Matthew Stafford is he did not practice once again, and he is going to practice on Saturday. As far as not practice, but he's going to go out there and he's going to throw again like he did last Saturday before their first preseason game against the Cowboys. Matthew Stafford said about Sean McVay said about Matthew Stafford's back injury, quote, "We're trying to get our hands around this as well, so I don't really have much more information other than we think that we're trying different things that are hopefully going to be in alignment with getting him back out on the field." So it does feel like Sean McVay is being a little more careful with the words he's using to describe this injury. They don't want to put themselves in any type of timeline where they're guaranteeing he's going to be back at practicing at some point. So, look, we kind of talked about this ad nauseum. This is mind-numbing at this point. It's been on so many different episodes. But I will say that every insider, Adam Schefter, Peter Schrager, I mean, they say that if the game was tomorrow, if it was September 7th tomorrow against the Houston Texans, that he'd be playing, that Matthew Stafford, if it was up to him, he'd be practicing. Yep. Until I hear that tune change, I'm not going to be overly concerned, but still, I'm not going to be happy until I see him throwing a football on a practice field to Rams receivers.
Okay, there's a lot in there, and let's start with this. That if there was a real game this Sunday, he would be playing. Doesn't fill me with a ton of confidence, because that what I don't hear is if there were a real game this Sunday, he would be playing and he'd play well. You know, that just because he would play doesn't mean that he's healthy. Just because he would play doesn't mean that he would go out there and be Matthew Stafford. Again, you can tell me whatever you want. I'm going to go by what I'm seeing. And what I'm seeing is a guy that hasn't practiced at all. What I'm seeing is a guy that went out there and had one workout a week ago Saturday and hasn't done anything since then. And so that's number one. So he would play is not he would play and be Matthew Stafford. It's he would play because we're paying him, $45 million. And that's what these guys do. They go out there and they play, even if they're not at their best. I would like to know that he's going to play and look like the guy that we all hope that he's going to be. That's number one. Number two is that you said it, D-Mac. This is the first time that Sean McVay has kind of kicked the can down the road of, you know what, I don't know what's coming up next, or we don't know how he's going to respond. Before it was everything's trending in the right direction. He's going to be ready when it's time to be ready, et cetera, et cetera. Now this feels like the first time they've put their foot in the ground and opened up the possibility without saying it explicitly that he might not be ready to go by the start of the season, that he might not be on track to everything's good, that this felt like a change in tone. And maybe they just don't want to box themselves into a timeline. I certainly would understand that. But also maybe it's he might not be ready for the opener. Here we are. We're only a couple of weeks away from the start of this whole thing, 3 weeks away from the start of this whole thing. I know he's been around for a long time. I know that he knows the offense. I know all this stuff. The everydayers have heard us talk about this. And yeah, we have spent a lot of time on it, but it is the story. It is the most important thing on this team of whether or not he's going to be available, whether or not he's going to be good. That, to me, available and good don't necessarily go together. He could be available and we could be having a conversation after the first week against the Texans where, yeah, he was out there, but my God, he looked awful. And is Jimmy Garoppolo healthy better than Matthew Stafford at 60%? I don't know. I mean, there's at some point it flips the other way around. Do you make that change? Do you sit him down? Do you give him a shot? Is there a surgery? All of these things that all of a sudden get opened up. Right now those aren't possibilities. But until I see him on the field practicing and throwing and looking like Matthew Stafford, I've gone from everything's going to be okay to I don't know, man. And that's a pretty long journey.
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point. Just because he is back doesn't mean he's all the way back. I mean, right. We'll see, right? I mean, does it change the velocity of his throws? Does it limit him in any capacity? How does he bounce back the next day? How does he bounce back after the first hit? I mean, all those things are definitely valid questions at this point just because of how this thing has kind of been kicked down the road, how they've handled it. But I still think, you look at the recovery, and I spent a whole segment about the immortal chamber, right? I mean, there's just all these, to me, it sounded like it was the next installment in the Mortal Kombat series, Matthew Stafford and the immortal chamber, like Mortal Kombat Scorpion's Revenge. Like I'm learning things I didn't need to learn about because of this whole process. But I think you bring up Jimmy Garoppolo, you bring up other options, and we've talked about how big that was for the Rams to kind of change their approach when it comes to the backup quarterback position, going with a more proven backup, and Jimmy Garoppolo certainly brings quality. But yeah, I mean, it's a significant drop off going from Stafford to Jimmy Garoppolo. And then you have fans out there floating the idea about bringing in Kirk Cousins as a possibility, which makes absolutely zero sense. Why would you take on that salary, give up a draft pick? Yes, there's the connection there with Sean McVay and Kirk Cousins, but no, like for me, it's either Stafford or you kind of just look, this season's, you move on to like the next era. Like it's like that. It's that simple for me. And I'm still confident that Matthew Stafford is going to be ready to go. He's tough as nails. It's just there's a big training camp storyline that you have to follow just because your big quarterback is not out there. And that is what it is.
Yeah, I agree with most of that. Look, toughness is not, no one's ever questioned Matthew Stafford's toughness, but like we've talked about before, backs are a different, if your back is messed up, I don't care how tough you are, you can't move. You can't live the way that you're supposed to, much less play in the NFL. And I was talking with DeMarco on my radio show, and he was saying that, you know, it's not even necessarily the hits that might be the thing that kind of make him have a setback. It could just be the torque of the throwing over and over again that gives his back some problems. Just quickly on Kirk Cousins, you know, the connection with McVay makes it this interesting that they know each other. They probably speak the same language. And I do believe that Sean McVay is the right guy for any quarterback as far as putting them in a position to be at their best. So that's this much interesting, not a ton, but a little bit. To me, there's not a huge difference between Jimmy Garoppolo and Kirk Cousins. They're roughly the same guy in my estimation. So I don't know if you go and try another veteran guy. I think you're right. I think in the event that Matthew Stafford was incapable of playing or got injured, you cross your fingers with Jimmy G and go from there, and then go into the draft next season with crystal clear, knowing what you need. You need to go find the quarterback of the future, but the quarterback of the future isn't on the roster right now. So if something happens this year, it is what it is. Maybe you can make it work with Jimmy G. Maybe you can't, but the Kirk Cousins thing is not interesting to me at all.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hard pass. In the words of the great Randy Jackson, that's a no for me, dog. Like straight up, but like a hard pass on Kirk Cousins, like no doubt about it. But coming up next, we're going to talk Jimmy Garoppolo and the Rams joint practice session with the Saints. We also have players that you need to look out for in the Rams' second preseason game against the Chargers. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
Listen up, D-Mac, because Monarch Money is for you. Most people can't name all of their financial accounts or even what the worth of them are. So whether it's your 401k, property investments, or any other investment you may have, when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's the all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your phone or your laptop. And it does the heavy lifting for you, Monarch Money does. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, and get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel like you're in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Russ, if you are in a relationship, you share accounts, maybe you're investing with a partner, Monarch makes it simple to review your finances with your partner so you can both see budgets, goals, spending activity, all in just one place. So don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONNFL.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also, big shout out to those everyday listeners out there watching, listening to every single episode of Locked On Rams. Cannot thank you enough. And if you haven't joined that Everyday Listeners Club, now is the time to join. We got a preseason special, all new members. You can join 100% free, and you won't miss a thing about your Los Angeles Rams. You just have to watch or listen to every single episode we drop, and you won't miss a thing about your favorite football team. All right, Travis, here in our second segment, we got takeaways from the Rams-Saints joint practice session. We'll stick with the offense. Sean McVay said after the practice that the offense, just wasn't particularly sharp. They weren't particularly sharp, and you had interceptions by Stetson Bennett and Jimmy Garoppolo. There was a drop in the flat by Puka Nacua. And yes, this is just a joint practice session, but when you're kind of thinking about, okay, what's the doomsday scenario with our backup quarterback, you would prefer that they looked a little better out there.
Look, it's especially, I agree with you, when you don't play your guys, right? The regulars, the ones and the twos in the preseason. The only chance you really get to see them are in these joint workouts. So we're going to put added emphasis on what it means, that if there's a drop in a joint practice and all the catches are made in preseason games, it's like, it's a drop in practice. Who really cares? But this is all we really get to see of Puka Nacua. It's really all you get to see of Jimmy Garoppolo. These are their opportunities to go up against other teams' ones and twos and see what it looks like. And when it doesn't look good, and when Sean McVay says, we didn't have a good day offensively, it's hard to just completely brush it aside like it doesn't mean something. And like you said, there's a chance that this is the guy pulling the trigger at the start of the year. It went from if you have to play Jimmy G a game or two, or maybe even a 3 or 4, is that going to work, to, hey, we might have to start the season with this guy, and who knows how long he's going to be out there. That is a totally different bar to clear. There's basic competence of understanding and not messing it up, and then there's, hey, go drive the team down the field for 4 quarters, week after week after week. They're very different asks, and so he's going to be judged differently depending on where he is. As a backup, there's one standard. As the potential starter, it's totally different.
Yeah, and I think when you think of Jimmy Garoppolo, he's a guy that's going to manage the offense. He's going to be efficient. But one thing that stood out to me was the fact that there were no big plays, right? And that's kind of when you think of like Matthew Stafford is a guy that give you these wow plays, these big plays. And I always think of Super Bowl, Manuel Sanders getting overthrown, not having that big play. And you got big playmakers on this team with the addition of Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. So it kind of just is a totally different dynamic. And it was up and down. They did kind of get it together a little bit during the 2-minute sessions. And look, the thing too is Jimmy Garoppolo is a veteran, right? It's not like his whole career is going to be, he's not going to make or break his whole career in a joint practice session. He's been through these millions of times throughout his career. And I think he's someone that deserves the benefit of the doubt as far as him turning it on during an actual game and regular season game. But still, it's kind of when you combine this with the Stafford thing and just kind of the direction of the offense in this team, it's just a little bit of a little bit of a vibe killer type thing.
Oh, I think it is. I don't know if it's a vibe killer, but it's a vibe changer for sure. Yeah. I don't think it's fair to judge one guy by his worst moment and compare it to the other guy's best moment. That's not a fair comparison. However, you said something I think that is really instructive, and that is the moment that Jimmy G had a moment in front of him in the Super Bowl against Kansas City, right? And he missed Sanders. He didn't hit the ball. Open guy, missed him. The moment that could have made him a Super Bowl winning quarterback, probably leaves him in the league as a starter for who knows how long after that, makes him God knows how many tens of millions of dollars along the way. He missed it. Okay? He missed it. Matthew Stafford, when he won the Super Bowl, 2 defining moments where he had a chance to make the throw or miss the throw. There's Cooper Kupp down the field, love of the game against Tampa in the divisional round. What happens? Bang, he hits it. They win the game. They advance to the next round. Fast forward to the Super Bowl against the Cincinnati Bengals. They're behind in the 4th quarter. This is their last chance to go win the game. This son of a gun throws a no-look pass across the field, across his body, that is right here, that is just right on the money. Again, unfair to judge one guy by the biggest miss of his career and compare it to the guy that had the biggest makes of his career, but that's the point, that one guy is a guy that is different, special, can do some things that you can't teach. He can just do them because he's got gifts that not everybody gets, and the other guy is a worker. He is I don't want to say a regular guy because he's a professional quarterback. He's not a regular guy, but by the standards of NFL quarterbacks, he's a regular guy. Special is always better, and Matthew Stafford is special. Jimmy Garoppolo is an NFL quarterback who you can win with, but the standard is totally different. And like I think you said, the vibe shift in his in him being out there as opposed to number 9 he walks out there, even if his spine was hanging out of the back of his uniform, you'd be like, yeah, he's pretty tough. He might make this throw. And you'd kind of believe it. Jimmy G, you're out there like, don't make a bad decision. And I just think the vibe between those two things is what we're getting at.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, hey, I like my number 3 starter to be my number 3 starter, my number 4 starter to be my number 4 starter. I don't want them to be my ace, right? I don't want them to be my game 1 starter, right? And that really is the difference there. And then just kind of as an aside, Travis, I mean, maybe it's a little bit of 49ers hate, right? To quote the great Aaron Donald, I hate the 49ers. But to think about how impactful that missed throw was in Super Bowl 54. I mean, that, Travis, was every quarterback's dream, right? That would have been the catch 4, right, for that 49ers franchise. And if he makes that throw, Mahomes is 0-2 in the Super Bowl, and it's can he win the big one? And then it's Belichick looking like, man, I lost 2 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks in Brady and Garoppolo to other teams, and then Trey Lance is probably a Falcon. I mean, it's just, I don't know, man. I love those kind of like butterfly effect moments in the Super Bowl, and that's certainly one.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And in fact, and you were talking about the big plays, to join that seems to be one of the things missing. And not to rehash this all over again, but we've seen the Garoppolo Devontae Adams thing. And I do believe that was more of a Raider situation than it was anything else. But or I should say, Devontae Adams didn't, what was the phrase? Hospital balls. That's not something I want to relive in a Rams uniform. And Matthew Stafford he's just different. And without him, it changes everything. It goes from the Rams having a pretty good chance to win every game they walk out onto the field against to we need a lot of things to go our way. And there's a lot of real estate between those two things.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And Travis, too, there's some Rams fans out there that I've seen some hostile takes out there. Like, oh, was his back fine when he signed that new contract? Was this the right move? Should you have maybe done Aaron Rodgers and possibly traded Matthew Stafford to the Giants or the Raiders? I mean, there's all kinds of kind of doomsday scenario takes out there. And mine is still this. I mean, the upside play of Matthew Stafford being healthy, paired with Sean McVay, guys that have done it together before, gone to the mountaintop and raised that Lombardi trophy, was still always worth the risk. I have zero doubts that was 100% the right decision, no matter what happens. And I'm still confident he's going to be fine, but still, I don't think there was an alternative out there that you could say, oh, even if you did go the cheaper route and get Aaron Rodgers or whatever it may be, and you're in a better position to find a successor with some draft picks, I still think that this window, this core they have right now, it still made all the sense in the world to go forward with Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, I do too. That he was the best man for the job. This is why when you and I were talking about it leading up to this, it always made the most sense that he was going to come back. They needed him. He needed them. So that they came back together was not a surprise. Let me throw this out there really quickly. As far as that you mentioned, somebody was saying, Aaron Rodgers would have been a better option. If the desire was to be an entertaining catastrophe, then sure, Aaron Rodgers would have been the better choice. But I'm going to list the entire NFL history of guys that have been 42 years old that have started 10 games in this league. Tom Brady. That's it. That's it. So this idea that it's like comparing people to LeBron. Just because Brady did it doesn't mean that someone else can do it. That means that Brady can do it. It means that LeBron can do it. That this is not everything's changed. No, it hasn't. Matthew Stafford is not only younger than Aaron Rodgers, he's significantly younger than Aaron Rodgers. And you give me the choice, Aaron Rodgers right now, Matthew Stafford right now, and I know Rodgers is out there and doing his thing, and Matthew Stafford is in the trainer's room. I understand that. I would take Matthew Stafford 10 times out of 10 in that situation.
Yeah, remind me after Kirsch went against Scherzer last week, and he was saying, oh, Scherzer's 41. He's way older than me. And Kirsch is like 37. It's like, yeah, I mean, it does feel like 41 to 37, even though it's like, it's different than like 24 and 20 or whatever. It just feels like it's way older, right? But
can I throw one thing in there real quick on that?
Yeah.
If I would have told you on August 15th that Clayton Kershaw would have the third most innings pitched for the Dodgers in 2025, that would not have filled you with a great deal of confidence. And that's exactly what's happened. Number 3.
That's a great
and by
point,
the way,
honestly.
Number 2 pitches for the Red Sox now, Dustin May. So, yeah, buckle up.
Just went 6 innings, too. Dustin Mania in Boston. But coming up next, more takeaways from the joint practice session and something that is very important for the other side of the football that's developing. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
All right, this episode of Locked On Rams is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. It is the best time of the year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season's back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning it up with a fantasy football experience like never before. This year, me, D-Mac, Locked On Rams fans, we are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you are a first-timer or a veteran filling out your 1 millionth league, right? I've used Yahoo Fantasy before, and it is terrific. The updates are rolling out this month are absolutely wild and in the very best way. So whether you want to try something new or whether you like sticking to head-to-head leagues or jumping into public leagues, Yahoo's got you covered. And to celebrate 28 years of fantasy greatness, Yahoo Fantasy's dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. And to kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues. That is a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated by each week until there's one team left standing. So with the season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. And like I said, if you're into the classics, you can still play in head-to-head leagues, private leagues, or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football right now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Okay, Travis, so we're going to pick up on some more of these takeaways from the Rams-Saints joint practice session. And this next one is about the running backs. And one of the big questions about the running backs is, will you get a impact season from one of the guys they drafted in the last couple of seasons? Will Blake Corum get more snaps? And also, will Jarquez Hunter provide that explosive element that this Rams running back group just hasn't provided in the last couple of seasons? And by all accounts, Blake Corum's looked really good. Jarquez Hunter has looked more explosive yesterday. He had a really long run up the middle where he cut back to his right, had a big touchdown. He showed that breakaway speed. So I think if he can provide that in any capacity during the year, it's going to be tough to keep him off the field. And also, we got some analysis about that from the big boss at Locked On, Ross Jackson. Yeah. Ross Jackson, who tweeted out, felt like the Rams rushing offense gave the Saints defense some problems, particularly the second team in Jarquez Hunter, who looked fantastic. So great to see that, and just what a great boss. And look, I'm trying to, we need to get that podcast of the week again. We haven't won it in like a couple years, so maybe I'm pushing for that a little bit. But great to hear that Jarquez Hunter is having a really good start to his career with the Rams.
Yeah. Look, Ross is our channel manager here at Locked On NFL. He is the host of Locked On Saints as well. So you've heard Ross on our crossover editions when they play the Saints. And we love Ross. Let me say, so Ross, turn off the pod right now and don't listen to what I'm about to say next. Saints suck. Okay, so the Saints are terrible. So having a big day against the Saints doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence. The Saints might be the worst team in the league. Saints might get the number one pick next year. So we'll kind of put that over there. Here's the deal. Between Hunter and Corum, whoever makes more big plays is going to be the guy that gets to backstop Kyren Williams, right? That Kyren Williams is going to get the lion's share of the opportunity. Kyren Williams is going to get the most of the carries. He's good at protection. He can catch the ball in the backfield, et cetera, et cetera. Blake Corum does a lot of what Kyren Williams does, and that's good if you're going to use him a lot. I don't know if they're going to use him a lot. That Hunter is the guy, it seems to me, that you're going to be able to hit big plays with or bigger plays with. So I really do think that wherever it comes down, as far as explosivity goes, that's the guy that's going to get more, maybe not more opportunities, but maybe more of our attention coming into this season because of those big plays. Because Williams doesn't really do that. Hunter has the possibility to do that, and it's kind of up to Corum to find a way to do that.
See, that's the interesting thing to me because, I mean, in theory, Corum should be ahead of him on the depth chart, and he did have two touchdowns in the Rams' first preseason game. Wasn't as efficient, but still – Hunter brings that lightning element to it. So if he can do this in a game, I do think that even if Corum got some more snaps here and there, he's more of a guy that to me has always been kind of insurance policy for Kyren Williams. I almost think it was a panic move because of what happened a couple of years ago with Kyren's injuries, and you want to have a guy that can do similar things. And he does things. I mean, he makes guys miss in the backfield, has that bowling ball style of running. I think Blake Corum is going to get his opportunities here too. But I think that's a big thing for Hunter is can you do it, and you do it early in the season with your opportunities. And if he does that, I could see Sean McVay just kind of rubbing his hands together saying, hey, I want that element because, Matthew Stafford, and we'll see what that looks like early on, can lean on the run game a little bit early on this season.
And look, one of the things I love about the Rams and how they do business, one of the things I love about Sean McVay, if you can make plays, you play, right? Like this isn't this guy got drafted higher than this guy, or this guy makes more money than this guy, so this guy's going to play. We saw Bo Limmer, 7th round draft pick, all of a sudden, boom, he's in there, he's starting right away. And they moved on from I've already forgotten the guy that was from the Lions that came in. Now he's with the Bears along the way, but they spent money on him and they just like, nope, we're not doing that anymore. We're moving on from that. We saw Puka Nacua, 5th round draft pick, boom, right in the lineup, right out of the way because he can make plays. So if you make plays, and Hunter certainly has an opportunity to make plays, you're going to go in there and you're going to play right away. That the pecking order, the draft status, the financial status is not what's going to determine this stuff. It's going to be determined on who makes more plays. So Hunter has a real chance to be that guy.
Totally. All right, Travis. So it's a big LA versus San Diego weekend. You have the Los Angeles Rams versus the San Diego Chargers. I don't care if they play at SoFi. I don't care that they're the tenants that pay $1 in rent. It's the San Diego Chargers, man. I don't care, right? And then you got the Dodgers versus the Padres. Is it 4-0 LA versus San Diego this weekend? Do the Dodgers sweep? They take 2 out of 3. I mean, I got Los Angeles Rams are going to beat the San Diego Chargers. I mean, apparently it says LA Chargers. Must be a typo here. But what's your prediction for this weekend on both sides?
Well, I did my Locked On Dodgers pod. By the way, I do my Locked On Dodgers every day with Harry Ruiz. The Dodgers, look, can I be blunt? They need to win a game. I'd love for them to win all 3 of them, and they certainly are capable of doing it. You're going to need a lot out of the starting pitchers. I think they win 2 of the 3 this weekend against the San Diego Padres. As far as the preseason NFL goes, I don't really, whatever. Let's get to September 7th against the Texans. The Chargers could win by 50. I wouldn't care. The Chargers could lose by 50. I wouldn't care. It's preseason football. The results of these are not meaningful to me in any real way.
Means something to me. I'm buying the DVD no matter what. If the Dodgers win those 2 games, you get the tiebreaker. So you're already feeling good about that.
There you go.
Basically like having a bonus game. So I take 2 out of 3 from San Diego. The way things are going, no doubt about it.
Like, would you take 1? The way things and I know you'd like to win 2 or 3, but the way things are going, just getting 1 would feel like something at this point.
Can't get swept, man. You can't. Things get dark if you get swept. I do kind of like, honestly, a sneaky. I'm not gonna. I kind of like them as their wild card position is kind of interesting if you kind of dive deep into it. But win the division and let's get LA's gonna beat San Diego football field and on the diamond this weekend. But that's gonna do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA, and follow the People's Champ, by the way, at Mr. Travis Rogers at Travis Rogers. Go listen to Locked On Rams. Him and Harry Ruiz. The GOAT Dodgers hat collection is not even close. So go check that out. But that's going to do it until next time. Whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.